And thank you for inviting me over, and thank everyone for participating in this very important Zoom. I'll talk a bit first about the forum and our activity here, and about the topic of gender-based violence, especially in captivity, its implications, and what is being done in this regard. So the forum represents the families. We're advocating for the families. We're a civil NGO, non-political, with one mission in mind, and to bring them back home. We hope to be closed as soon as possible, as soon as everybody are back home, even though the legal department will probably work years to come. All of us are volunteers, and we're doing it because we feel like this is our mission and what needs to be done right now. I feel like everybody feels sleepless at night when we know that there are still 136 persons still held captives by Hamas in Gaza. So focusing a bit on our topic, the gender-based violence. So we started off with seeing what happened on October 7th, right? On October 7th, everybody knew what's going on because Hamas posted it. They took photos, they posted it online, they sent it to families by their own loved ones, iPhones and social media. So we knew that there is sexual based violence going on. Then when you saw that they are taking 250 back then captives into Gaza, we assumed that the situation there is not different, but we didn't have proofs. And the reaction we got from the international community was, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that what that you're claiming that's happening and what happened, we know that happened on October 7th, is still happening in captivity? Now, we got this from UN bodies, we got this from the ICRC. And the ICRC were here in the meeting, and they say, we assume that everything is reasonable in captivity. They're being properly cared, properly medicated, and not going through gender-based violence. And our reaction was, why would you assume this? When we know what happened on October 7th, we know what happened there. Everybody saw the pictures of girls without their pants, flipped on their bellies, torn, saw the videos of girls being paraded half naked in Gaza. Why would you assume everything is okay in captivity? Now, our gravest concern was, I come from the legal academia, from research, and legal research that suggests that women in captivity that are being harmed are not being released to destroy evidence. That was our biggest fear. So what the research suggests is that you should open this topic up and speak about it and say, we know what's going on in there. And unless all 90 women, originally 90 women were taken in captivity, unless all 90 women are released, we know that you harmed them. You did the only thing worse than what you already done. Now, since that point, some persons taken hostage have been released and started sharing their stories. And we've been faced through a dilemma, right? Because there are women in there and their privacy matters, and they will have to deal with everything once they're released. God hope they are released, and we're working to achieving that goal. And we have to protect them, but nevertheless, we have to kind of expose what's going on in there. So what guided us was, first of all, the entire principle of victims' rights, and also that when someone returns from captivity, this is her story to share. And she can say and share and tell her story without any limitation at all, because that's her experience. But us as a legal team, me as a legal scholar, I cannot share anything that I know. We have a lot of information because we're handling the ICC persecution. And we have a lot of stories that no one heard, and persons that want to keep their own personal story and their own trauma personal. And that's obviously understandable. So it's always on a very kind of delicate balance of protecting those women, making sure that they are unharmed. And on the other side of it, giving voice to the women that have returned, being able to kind of echo the stories that they share, and making sure that the world knows, because these women have to be released. Now, the thing about gender-based violence, I think it's the only topic that you almost don't hear justifications based on context. We heard on day one from the Secretary General, this does not happen in a vacuum. This is all context-based. In the legal academia, we heard kind of arguments based on Fanon. You can kind of manage your liberation struggle, whatever means you want to. And this is not how international law works. You can never target civilians, never, unless they actively participate in hostilities. And all of a sudden, we heard this very kind of wrong perspective on international law, voiced by people who know international law and should know better. Now, gender-based violence is a bit different because people are so shaken by it that by the time that actually accepted that it happened, and it took time, I think it took something like 3 months or 2.5 months for people, for the international community to stop saying, where is the evidence, and trying to embrace the I believe her slogan, and to actually live by it, and to accept that actual gender-based violence is happening, that girls are being raped, are being molested, that they need to be released. And you can't justify this based on context. You can never justify it at all. And now I think that it's the first time we're starting to see this kind of cooperation. And Pramila Patten, her visitation here, I think is a very important milestone. We took a lot of communication with her together with the amazing Professor Ruth Halperin Kadari, and strong women, and that their loved ones were held hostage, and ones that have been released, and talked to her, and went on delegations and contacted her and shared their stories to make her understand she is serious and very honest with her intentions, to make her come up here and start a formal investigation. Now, she landed here today. She will be in Kfar Aza, she'll be in Be'eri, she'll be in the south of Israel. I don't want to kind of say the exact kibbutzim she will be in. And she'll be in the forum, and we'll talk to people, talk to hostages, to family members, and we'll hear their concerns. Now, this is especially important because in the Israeli domestic legal system, there's a very low chances of ever prosecuting Hamas terrorists about gender-based violence because we don't have forensics. I'm not saying it in criticism, I'm describing things as they are. October 7th, this country was in shock. Women, bodies of women, arrived to Shura, to the recognition facility, with their pelvises broken, women and girls, and they didn't do any kind of rape kit, rape examination. We have nothing, and those things they have their time limit. You can't do it a month after. So basically, the domestic legal system will not be able to award any kind of recognition, but international law is not based on forensics, but more on testimonies. This is part of the reason that Pramila's investigation, that the ICC litigation is so important to us. It's important on the level of recognition, the historical recognition of what actually happened here, and more so on exerting some immediate pressure for the release of those women still held captive by Hamas in Gaza. They need immediate pressure. And when this is concerned, I think that everyone here in this Zoom has something to do too, because a lot of it is about public perception, about public recognition, and about people not being able to look away and shy away from it. Sometimes people don't want to deal. They say, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know about it. It doesn't concern to me. It's easier to behave as if it doesn't happen. But if you put it out there, you raise awareness to it, if you face people with the actual facts and truths of it, you will hear Aviva soon, and you can read the New York Times research, and you can see other accounts of survivors. And don't let people forget about it. People behave sometimes in the world as if October 7th is something that happened and is past us, and now we're focused on what's going on in Gaza, for example. But 136 persons are still being in there. Girls and women are still being held there, and we need to get them out. So when I'm asking you for help, it's on few levels. First of all, awareness. And also use your connections, use your political connections, get in touch with your congressperson, get in touch with leaders in your communities and demand them to act. Part of the things that they can do is to request sanctions to be issued. We are in contact with various countries on issuing sanctions. That's a very efficient method that a prosecutor can order. Talk to them about raising this topic in the UN fora. That's important too. Making it part of the political day order. Now I see that there are people here from Canada. Canada had 2 hostages actually, and they were announced dead. So 2 bodies held in captivity. With the Americans, we have several US citizens in captivity. We have Italian families there too, Italian family members. I just talked to an aunt that has her, I think the oldest hostage held there, and has families with Italian citizenship. So I think it's something that everybody needs to think, what kind of influence within their communities, within their circles, they can exert, kind of use to ask for help. Because these women in there, those persons held in captivity, we must speak for them, right? They can't do it for themselves. They have to survive, and we have to make sure that their loved ones see them once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly. We will open it to questions. We have one question, Adi. How many, someone asked how many hostages are from the USA?
So we have, I think currently, and it depends on the count, but 8 hostages, if I'm not mistaken, from the USA. But we also have hostages that don't have US citizenship, but their family members do. And that also counts for something. For example, Elkanah is not a US citizen, but his brother is. So that also counts for something in US law, because he's too a victim.
Okay, thank you. There is another question, Shelly. Someone asked here, sanctions against who?
Hamas leaders. So it can do, for example, Japan issued sanctions against Hamas leaders and against Hamas kind of associated companies. So you can have it both ways. You can issue arrest warrants. That's also something that is very effective, but it's mostly economic sanctions against Hamas leaders. For example, in Europe, we have more than 1 billion euros of Hamas assets in Europe. So you have to check like what is the amount of assets they have in the US. So those are all funds that the state can kind of hold and make their life harder. Now we're talking about international law against Hamas. It's not because Hamas cares about international law. If they did, we wouldn't have been in the position we are. But Hamas has its aiders and abettors and its sponsors, and they do care about their perception within liberal society, right? Hosting World Cups, buying fashion houses, engaging in media. So international law is kind of a way that we are influencing them through another level.
Okay, we have two more questions. One is, other than spreading the word out, is there anything you need in the hostages forum from the communities, other than things that you already said, that you
Well,
can?
so definitely. So first of all, there's the thing of awareness, but also, and this is an expensive thing. I mean, the legal efforts I just described, and this is just my department. I'm a volunteer. I work for free. I would have never worked so hard for money, just for a good cause. But we are working with law firms abroad that are volunteers, of course, and with PR companies. We have to fly witnesses to The Hague, to delegations. I mean, this is all expensive. I'm not the money person, but if people are interested in actually putting in a donation, of course, that's very helpful. That's not a cheap project to carry out, and we do depend, other than us volunteers, on professionals, on very capable professionals we're working with.
Okay. Someone asked, what's the status of the current hostages negotiation taking place in Paris?
I'm getting news pushes as we speak. So I'm seeing from the news there are some advancements that they're talking about a deal. We don't have a deal yet. So we learned from past experience that until people are back here, we are not letting ourselves kind of have high hopes. I can give you the example of Romi's mom, Merav Leshem Gonen. On the other deal, she had her daughter on the list. She already saw her name on the list for Friday, and then the ceasefire ended, and she had to deal with it. So I think that part of the lesson we learned here, that we have to keep it very like relaxed and keep our expectations low, and don't let the families feel like they have something in their hand until they actually do, because it's an emotional roller coaster as it is. So we kind of, but I'm same as you. I'm receiving the pushes as we speak.
Okay, Shelly, although Simcha already is with us, I'm asking you the last question, although I said 3. Could you provide a detailed list of names, companies regarding the sanctions?
The name of the companies I can send later if you want. A list of states that issued sanctions, and the one that actually published the details, I will share this too. So I can offer later on, and you can pass it on to the members.